Thanks for the opportunity. Over a period of 6 months or so, sickness or illness saw my dog get gradually sicker and sicker to the point where he was in much, much pain. Vet x-rays and pills and probing did not find a cause that was treatable. We had a family meeting, and collectively we decided to have the vet end his life to ease his pain by injection. And you made a comment about a lady who felt more grief when she lost her dog than when her mother died. Although it sounds mean, I had the same uncontrolled times of tears for many weeks afterwards, the death of my little buddy. I've considered the notion of ego and suffering and pain when remembering my companion in the now. I feel that in the final moments that I betrayed our companionship. So my question, how do I remove the ego side of not having my buddy or companion around, whilst not removing and dismissing the love I continue to hold for him? I realise that he's physically gone, but like in a recent interview with a quantum scientist author, I wondered about the connection. I met a nice chap here who lost a partner, and he said that your talks help. And of course, I'm not comparing that loss, but I'm hoping you might find or might contemplate and give pointers again to perhaps how I can let go of the form and then still remember the love part without getting sadder and getting attached.
Yes.
Hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. I understand. And the same question would apply also to if somebody close to you dies. People who have not had a close connection with an animal like a dog may not understand you. Only people who have had that will understand that it can be as painful as losing a human. And we had the same experience when our dog passed away under similar circumstances. And in the end, because she was suffering too much, we had to ask the vet to come, and she died peacefully. And she had a wonderful life, was loved and gave love for 9 years. And her consciousness, she was a female, benefited greatly from being together with us, with humans, and with us in particular. And we benefited from her unconditional, continuously loving presence. She loved almost everybody.
Same.
She loved almost every other dog or animal and almost every other human, with very few exceptions. And whenever somebody, whether it's an animal that you are very close to or a human, the moment a person dies or an animal dies, you realize what you loved was not the physical form, or the physical form may be beautiful and part of the loving experience, but the moment the life is gone, that which you loved is not there anymore. There is something inhabits the physical form that is the essence, the organizing principle, the intelligence, whatever you want to call it, behind, that keeps the molecules and atoms of the physical form together and organizes, holds them together. Science doesn't know about that yet. It only it equates life with matter, but life is beyond that, and ultimately life is consciousness, and the dog is an expression of the one consciousness, different from a human. The human is an expression of the one consciousness, or any non-physical entity can only also be an expression of the one consciousness expressing itself at different levels of evolution. So it's like you could say a ray of sunlight. You are a ray of sunlight, and I am, and the dog is, and the flower is, all consciousness incarnating in form. So that does not die. The essence doesn't die. And the dog, it's not a dog. I mean, we think we know what we are talking about when we say a dog. No, it is a being, an energy field, a being, an expression of the one consciousness. Not, we think we know when we label things and call it something, we think we know what it is. We don't know what a dog is. And just by calling it dog, it's just pseudo-knowledge. We don't know what a human is. Just the fact that somebody has a name, we think you know what that is. No, it's an unknown phenomenon. It's through the language gives us the illusion that we know, but we don't really know. And so here you have the dog, this wonderful presence, closed in matter, temporarily, and something happened because consciousness evolves throughout the universe and evolves in billions of ways and forms, in and through billions of ways and forms. It's a magnificent, ultimately totally incomprehensible miracle, totally incomprehensible to the human mind, but consciousness is engaged in this evolutionary process, the one consciousness, and whatever suffers is the one consciousness. It's not a coincidence that there's a religion on this planet where the main image is a suffering God. Isn't that strange? I mean, we have some explanation for it. We say, well, that was Jesus who died for this. Okay, let go of that explanation and just remain with the fact that here you have the main image of that religion is a suffering, basically, whether you call it Son of God or God, doesn't matter, a suffering God. And there's a deep significance to that. You don't have to be a Christian. In fact, if you're a Christian, you probably don't want to go there where I'm going now. There's a deep significance there because this suffering God is everybody. It is the fundamental human archetype. It's the suffering that every human and every life form, but in this case a human, he represents the human, that every life form goes through when this life form assumes the form of the material form, the separate, seemingly separate material physical vehicle, and is then defined in form. There were ancient teachings, they're quite close to the truth, that say that consciousness fell into matter as if it were a mistake. But I think it's a good image to say that consciousness, there was a kind of fall of consciousness into matter, but it wasn't a mistake. There are no mistakes in the universe. So, and if there is a mistake, it has a higher purpose for learning, and so it's not a mistake anymore. So that for those years that you lived together, you both, your consciousness and the dog's consciousness, which are not really separate, although we just call them that, benefited greatly and grew, evolved through being together. So it helped the dog and it helped you. It added something to your consciousness, that being together with that entity, with that being. And that is not lost. I cannot tell you in what way that which animated that entity that we call dog continues on its journey back to the source, but it continues on its journey as you continue on it, not as a person, not as a personal identity that survives, but an underlying energy field, and the underlying consciousness that gives rise to this form, of course, continues on its journey and ultimately is never separate from its source. It just believes itself to be separate.